Today's article is called Common Characteristics of the New England Colonies. So we stay on our New England colonies that we started yesterday. You see here at the top of the article a wonderfully old and detailed map of the colonies. Take a closer look at that. Do you see any features and landforms that you recognize? Interesting. Let's see. It looks like there's Long Island in New York. So that would be Connecticut and the beginnings of, it says New England up here, Vermont, New Hampshire. But really, it's like Pennsylvania. Yeah. So what does the caption say? A general map of the middle British colonies in America. Wait a second. I'm confused because I thought the title just said New England. Let's keep reading to see if we become unconfused. Containing Virginia, Maryland, and the Delaware counties, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, with the addition of New York and the greatest part of New England. All right, so it does mention New England. Okay, so that's an interesting map they chose to include in the articles on New England. Let's read to see if we can understand better what's going on here. Here's the introduction. The English settled several North American colonies. Those colonies are often divided into three different groups. They are the New England colonies, the Middle colonies, and the Southern colonies. The New England colonies were Massachusetts Bay, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. Here's a look at what the New England colonies had in common. All right, so we are focused on New England here. What they had in common. Well, let's find out. This subsection is called Physical Characteristics of New England. Physical means like the landforms. I bet we're going to find out about the land. The land, it says, I'll look at that, the first two words. The land in the New England colonies had been covered in ice during the last ice age. It left rocky boulders and soil that was bad for farming. In other parts of America, farmers grew crops around rivers. In New England, rivers were short and there was not enough land around them to farm well. Instead, the colonists relied mostly on fishing and logging of forests. So farming wasn't really conducive to New England. That doesn't mean there weren't farms. There certainly were. Everyone had to grow their own food for the most part. But big farms for money making weren't that common in New England. Okay, here we go. Next section. The people of New England. Most of the settlers of New England were from England. Oh, imagine that. They had similar backgrounds and were looking for new opportunities. Many of them were escaping the mistreatment they experienced because of their religion. The New England colonists settled in towns. They would farm the large areas of land around the town. They were also Native American groups living in the area. The Pequot in Connecticut did a lot of trading with the Dutch. Dutch are people from the Netherlands, Holland. However, England started a war with the Pequot in 1636, which I believe we didn't read about that yesterday. We learned about King Philip's War, not the Pequot War. Many Pequot were killed or sold into slavery in the Caribbean. Later, the Connecticut colony built two areas for the remaining Pequot to live on. Major occupations in New England. So occupations are sort of like jobs. Agriculture. New England farms didn't grow crops well. Still, farmers were inventive. They managed to support themselves with the crops they grew. Fishing. Fishing started in 1633 and was a huge business by 1700. The colonists caught fish and shellfish, but also hunted whales. Trade. People in New England participated in trade. England was its major trading partner. The New Englanders also traded in the Caribbean and with the French colonies to the north. This section is called New England Religion. Calvinism and the social contract theory. What is that? That sounds confusing. All right, let's read about it. You see this semicolon there? That means here is what that is. What is Calvinism and social contract theory? It's the following. Many New England settlers followed the Calvinist religion. Let's read to find out what Calvinists are. In England, the Calvinists were some of the first to support the idea of the social contract. The idea states that a government is an agreement. It is like a contract between people to join together in a society. Many of the settlers brought their Calvinist beliefs to New England. So, Calvinist religion was followed by people who believed in the social contract. And a social contract is the idea that a government is an agreement. You might know it better by of the people, by the people, and for the people, or we the people. Together we form a contract, an agreement to rule ourselves, right? The roots are here in Calvinism. Okay, back to the text. A belief in predestination. So this is again about religion in New England. What is predestination? Let's find out. One of the important parts of Calvinism is predestination. It is the belief that God has already decided everything, including who goes to heaven. It included the idea that God had chosen the British colonies to take the North American continent and create a democracy there. Huh. How does that sound to you? Does that sit right? That people came believing that God chose the British colonies to take North America? What about all the Native Americans? Interesting question. Do you see how that Calvinism might lead to some problems? Congregationalism. This type of religion means church members govern the church. They choose their own leaders. Intolerance. The settlers escaped to New England to practice their religion freely. However, they did not allow everyone to practice their religion. In the Massachusetts Bay Colony, there were consequences for people who did not follow the colony religion. They could not vote. Others could be kicked out of the church or the colony. The next section, the spread of the New England population. The first small towns only lasted a few years. The growing population needed more land to farm. Townspeople broke away and created many new small towns instead of a few large cities. In the 1790s, cities finally started to grow. In summary, New England was created by people who had very similar backgrounds. At first, those people had the same culture and religion. They did not have good farmland. Instead, most settlers turned to trade and fishing. Still, people in towns worked small pieces of land around the town. Slavery was not necessary for trade in New England. In the southern colonies, where there was more farming, slavery was important. This difference was important when the colonies became the United States. Americans started talking about states' rights and slavery. So that is some background information on the New England colonies and our history. Now you are going to either read again or read along with me again, okay, and thoughtfully take the quiz. I can't wait to see how you do. Let me know if you need any